One. Okay.
Good afternoon. So today we are all here to do our second in the series of Friday Friendlies. My name is Jade and I work for Monmouthshire Youth Service. I'm joined today with a few of my colleagues and we are going to be talking about children's mental health. Now, if you've come to watch, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching on replay, also thank you very much for watching. We are going to go through a few things and then we'll get started. So, any problems with your newsfeed, feel free to give it a pause, try and let it buffer. And if that doesn't work, post your questions in the chat bar and we will continue to answer them. If you don't get back on the live, then we can send out a recording to you so you can watch it back. So yes, what I want to encourage people to do is to put your questions in the chat bar throughout this live and we will get them answered. Okay, so starting off then, I have invited here today with me the shift team. So we're going to go through now in a minute and tell you who is on our team and what we do. Who would like to go first? So my name's Charlie Jade Atkins, I probably should say that. And I'm covering the Caldicot area at current. I work on a Tuesday and a Thursday, so I'm not full-time on shift, but I do help out. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Kelly now. Over to you.
Hello. So my name's Kelly. I coordinate the Monmouth and Abergavenny area for the shift team, and as it stands, I'm also coordinating the under-18s team. So my team covers the whole of the county. So I've got 2 people in Caldicot, 1 person in Chepstow, and then myself covering the Monmouth and Abergavenny area. And then our other side of the team is our post-18. So they work with 18s to 25. This is a new project coming up. So I'll pass you over to their team now so they can introduce themselves. So over to you, Leanne.
Hi, thanks, Cal. So my name is Leanne, and as Kelly said, I work with the over 18s on the shift division. So it's across the whole of Monmouthshire County, so covers right away from Caldicot to Abergavenny. And what we do is we deliver the shift project, but it's delivered slightly differently because it's catered to those young people who are on the older scale, so 18 to 25 years. On the project for the 18s is myself and my colleague Gavin, so we're in the process of setting that up, so I will let Gavin introduce himself.
Hi everyone, I'm Gavin, as Leanne said, and I work on the post-18 shift project. I was working on the one with Cal as well before, but obviously we've decided that the over 18s need a bit of a look in as well. So yeah, we cover all of Monmouthshire. We meet pretty much anywhere that's suitable, whether it's out in the community. We don't do home visits or anything like that, but yeah, anywhere that you're comfortable, and we have safe spaces as well for you to come visit us if you want to have a chat. And then the last member of our team that's been able to make it today is Abby, so I'll pass it over to her now.
Hi everyone, I meet myself. Yeah, I'm Abby, so I work on the shift project as well with Kelly, and I mainly work in Chepstow and Caldicot area, but you might know me more from Monmouth because I also work in the centres around Monmouth and at Monmouth Comp as well. But is everyone gone? Am I going to join normally everyone? I'm late to the party. I feel like Jade's chatting, but Jade's on mute. that is the case. I was on mute, which is absolutely fine because I can change what I was about to say now anyway. So the reason why we've chosen Children's Mental Health Week this week is because obviously it's Children's Mental Health Week, but also we've had wellbeing, a topic on our Make Your Mark ballot, come up for the 6th year in a row now. So I think it's really important that we start addressing issues for young people and highlighting the support that's already out there as well. We know that it was voted the 3rd highest for Make Your Mark this year in Monmouthshire. However, in Wales, it was voted the highest priority. So I know that the Welsh Youth Council, the Welsh Youth Parliament, will be working on mental health as one of their priorities. I know that it comes up year on year in the British Youth Council, and I know that we've been working on lots of different ways to support young people with emerging issues. I would like to pause at this point and say, if any of you watching do want to ask us any questions about Shift Team, the projects that we've got going on or anything like that, please feel free to put your questions in the chat and we will stop and answer them. It's kind of like a discussion based thing. We've got a loose agenda, but we're kind of going to go with whatever young people want to ask. Okay, so we were going to talk through a few things today. Namely, looking after yourself. So, how do you look after yourself? Tips and tricks on that, how to spot the signs in your peers. What kind of support is out there? There's lots of different types of support, and it's knowing about which is the right support for you that you might need, if you do need it. We all have mental health all of the time. It can go up and down. It can change, so it's about being aware of how you're feeling and what kind of things stress you out or trigger you. So does any of my gang have a question? Because there's none in the chat bar at the moment. Yeah, Leanne.
So I suppose it's just a question for the team, really. Obviously, we've all been through different stages of our lives. We've all had super highs, we've all had super lows, and I was just interested to hear how we all recognise the signs within ourselves that we might be on the verge of, maybe needing to have a little bit of support, or maybe something's just not quite right with us. And I wondered if there was any kind of trends in that, if we had anything in common, if there was anything similar that we could all relate to. If you're happy to, I'll go first and then sort of see if that sparks.
Yeah.
So I found it was particularly at the start of the lockdown. I found at first I was loving the idea of lockdown. Can't leave your house, nobody can come and visit you, you haven't got to go anywhere, and I was like, this is just the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then about 24 hours in, I thought, hang on a minute, I'm locked in my house with I had a newborn baby and a toddler at the time. So I started to notice that things were starting to get a little bit on top of me. I was really struggling to fall asleep and to stay asleep. So I just put it down to just being exhausted, with the baby and things like that. But as time went on, that didn't stop, if you know what I mean. So that's something that I recognise in myself, is when my sleep is disturbed and I find it really hard to sort of switch off. That's a thing in myself that I noticed. Maybe that's a little bit of a trigger. And also cleaning as well. I can't stop when I feel like it's getting too much. I tend to focus on things that are completely irrelevant. The thing that made me think, you need to chill, was I was hoovering my lampshade. So that made me think, maybe you should just press pause a minute and see. Is anyone else is that similar to anyone else?
Well, I was going to say I'm the complete opposite on that last point, the cleaning bit. I'm pretty guilty of letting stuff slip. The washing piles up, plates everywhere, clothes pile up, not taking care of myself. So yeah, if you go back to the start of the first lockdown, it was great, wasn't it? It's oh yeah, I don't have to go out, I don't have to get dressed, I don't have to do anything particularly. There was a lot of pressure taken off. And yeah, you get used to being inside a lot. You get used to your own company, and it was really nice at the start. Actually, I remember a lot of us as a team. You know, we spent a lot of time chatting all day, doing quizzes, like I'm sure everyone did, and then that started to teeter off. You know, we all get digital fatigue, but for me, like when I really noticed, like my mental health was taking a bit of a kicking, it was when I started to isolate myself, like not responding to people, yeah, just not making an effort. I mean, it's okay to not respond as well. You need to look after yourself first. But when it's sort of been a few weeks and you haven't really like spoken to anyone or you know, had any sort of contact with anyone, that's when I noticed it was starting to be a problem. So I don't know how else any of you, the rest of the team, feel.
Any takers?
Nobody?
Okay, then I'll go next. I kind of related to Leanne's a lot more. I'd end up doing lots of random stuff. I never used to notice when my mental health was suffering. Like it kind of come out on me all in one go. It would be like I'd start acting funny for a few weeks, and then like it would just be overwhelming, and I would kind of like crash or hit a brick wall, if you know what I mean. I think the more that kind of happens, and the more I talk about it with people, I recognise the signs a lot more now, so I can get on top of it a lot quicker. It doesn't always stop it from happening. It still comes. Like there are days when, like, I wake up and you can have that feeling. It's just a feeling where you just feel really heavy on your chest, and people say, "What's the matter?" And you're like, I literally don't know. But I'm learning now to like sit with that. I think I've been doing a lot of meditation work with a course that we've been put on, and I found that really helps us to like calm down and take stock of like the now, rather than panicking about what's happened or what's about to happen. But yeah, that's for me anyway. What about anybody else?
I was just going to jump on the end of that. Sorry, Jade.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the physical stuff. That was something for me. I wasn't anticipating how physical it can be. Like the lethargy, I felt just so tired and drained. Whether I was getting 3 or 4 hours sleep or I was getting 12 hours sleep, when I woke up, I was just exhausted. Like getting out of bed was a real struggle. And that's another thing as well. Then you start to alarm yourself. I'm like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Am I ill? You obviously get more susceptible to illnesses when you're feeling that run down. But yeah, like we'll talk about it later, right? I'm sure, but sleep is a huge factor, but don't ignore like the physical signs, you know, whether it's increased appetite, lack of appetite, you know, there's so much that goes with it. And not to minimize anybody's sort of experience, but it's really normal. And that's something to remember as well when you're thinking about these things.
Isn't it like for young people anyway, at least 1 in 4 I remember will have it at some point, mental health problems. So like just by the fact that there's 4 of us on the chat, it would say like 1 of us would definitely. So if there's nobody else that wants to cut in, then we could go on to like the tips and tricks though of how to look after our mental. Oh, go on, Abby.
I don't mind saying a little bit. Yeah, it followed on from what Gav said as well, about the physical feelings. And I know whenever I get it, and I know I've spoke to you about this as well, Jade, like I'll feel physically sick, and to the point where I'm like, I am going to be sick. And I can remember like having discussions about it, and the fact that some people sort of say, oh no, it's because you feel anxious. I almost found it a bit insulting at the time, because it was like, no, you're not listening to me. Like I feel sick, and it was almost sort of patronising that you're sort of telling me that the reason I feel like this is in my head. And I remember getting really frustrated about it because I didn't understand how it was almost like they were sort of putting it down to nothing. And I feel like, especially in this lockdown, like the first, I think I was a minority who absolutely loved it. I sort of like been I was going in a cocoon, I was going to do my running and my dieting, and I'd come out this fresh new version of myself, and I loved it. And now, like similarly about the fatigue and the tiredness, I know there's a lot of guilt in this one, where we're sort of, because we're not doing anything, but people feel so tired and drained and fed up, it then feeds on to guilt, because why do I feel like this? I'm not doing anything. And I've sort of read this thing that is saying it's mental fatigue. Like it's our 3rd lockdown. we've all in it now, we're all fed up, we're all bored of it, and it's kind of mentally draining. And so feeling like, I think it's important to say, don't punish yourself for feeling how you're feeling, because it's completely understandable. Even if you spend your day doing nothing, it's quite normal to be drained in these times.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know that it was really like welcoming to hear once when I was on a chat with a lot of staff and young people, and she just said we've all been a little bit traumatized. The whole world, like there's nobody who's gone without it, you know. And sometimes there's a lot of people out there who are doing really well, they're thriving, and then, you know, there's like times where you might not be, but we are actually all going through something together, so it's okay to be feeling a bit out of kilter at the moment. I think one of the best quotes I've heard recently is about doing your best. So like your best can change from day to day depending on how you are. Like your best could look very different. One day if you're feeling like really down or whatever, or anxious, then your best could be just making the bed for that day or just having a shower. But then other days your best can be completely different. When you're feeling, you know, lively and excited and happy, your best could be, I don't know, running marathons and saving the world. Anyway, I've forgotten where I was going to go with that.
I've just seen there's a question been asked, Jade, which I don't mind starting to field. I mean, if everyone jump in if I'm missing anything.
Yep.
So we've just had a question come through. It says, what's the best way to support friends without making them feel suffocated? So that's a really good question. And the fact that you're even asking that question means you're on the right track. Like you're interested, you're engaged. So there's no like one answer that answers all of it. Unfortunately, it's like multifaceted. But some tips then, if you want to call them that, it's things like, well, starting with yourself, it's important to set boundaries. You're not there to fix them. You're not a mental health professional. So it's setting clear boundaries so that you're not ending up being like this person that they're going to 24/7, because that's not helpful for either of you, because you can't be on all the time. So set those boundaries and then look after yourself. Maybe do a bit of your own research. There's an absolute wealth online. There's plenty of books, things like that. And then just keeping in touch regularly. I mean, it's different for everyone. Some people like to be checked in on once or twice a day. Some people like it once a month, you know. So just have that conversation with your friend. If they are feeling a bit low and need the extra support, just say what would be helpful. And I know things at the moment are tough, like you can't meet up and stuff like that. But when things change and go back to some normality, helping with like different tasks and stuff is always helpful. Like I know I've find it helpful, like get my washing up done or something, like that's like mega helpful. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any other tips they want to jump in on.
I think consistency. Oh, go, Liam.
Thanks. Just going off from what you said, excuse me, what you said, Gav, is you're not there. You can't be on all the time. So I think that's a real good point to make. Going back to the point where it said best ways to support friends without making them feel suffocated. This is just from my own personal experience and things that I've, you know, done for my friends. I'm being completely honest with you, is check in, but with something that they don't have to answer, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know if you saw, like, you send them a TikTok and say, I saw this and it made me think of you, or I don't know, a meme or something, tag them in something where it's just like, you know, I'm thinking of you. So, you know, that door is open, but it's not a, how you doing? Because sometimes when you just think, I just can't be bothered to answer, like it's not personal, it's not you, it's not. And then what I would find, and I had a friend of mine, again, lockdown, and she said that she was really grateful that it was so open-ended, that because then she didn't feel guilty by not responding to me. And you know what it's like, you miss a couple of texts, you miss a couple of phone calls, and then you think, oh god, they're going to be annoyed with me now, and then you make it up in your head that it's this big thing, that this person like hates your guts, you know, because you've ignored them for however long, when that's not the case at all. So I find it really helpful to just check in, make the contact, but keep it quite light, you know, like there's no expectation of a reply. Just takes the pressure off a little bit.
Awesome. I wondered if I was going to come up next. Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. It does help when you are struggling to come back with something, or just say how you feeling, and it's the same as it has been, I don't know, forever. So what kind of things then, taking it back a little bit to like children's mental health and Monmouthshire specifically, there's lots of different things available for young people. And I hear, you know, we had a youth conference in the start of 2020 before lockdown, and we spoke about mental health there. And I know that there was a lot of young people saying that they want help or they want support, but they don't know what's available. So that's the kind of thing I did want to bring up today on the chat, was the types of services that are available, the types of support, because there's different types of support, and how would they get this help, this support. Would anybody like to help next? Cows.
Yeah, so I think it's really important. Obviously, we've introduced ourselves and stuff and said we're the shift team, but I don't think we've really like explained what we do. So we are part of that support network that can support young people. So we are a non-clinical service, which means that you know, we don't kind of sit into that like counsellor bracket, but we're all youth workers. So we're like more like a professional friend. So we're able to like mentor and have that relationship with you guys, young people, without like putting that clinical edge in it. So we're not doctors, and like, you know, we're not sat in like clinical areas. Like we can be in youth centres or in school with you, or out in the community, or wherever really best fits. And then obviously we're allowed to do this over digital as well, so we can video chat you and text you and call you. So what we do is we provide like one-to-one services to young people who have got like emerging mental health or wellbeing issues, and these can be related to like loads of different things. So if you've got like relationship breakdowns or like problems at home with families, or even if you've got issues in school, and that could be related to like you're not coping with a workload, or actually you've been trying to get support from your teachers but you're not quite sure how to address it, then we can kind of step in and help you with that. So that's like one side of what we do in our service. And the way you would get access to us and to any services that are available. So you've got like above us then, or like tier 2, 3 and 4. So you've got counselling, so face-to-face counselling. There's group sessions with a company called Platform. So they do similar to what we do, but they do it more group stuff. So if someone's got problems with like self-esteem or self-confidence, they can link you up with people who are going through a similar thing. So you can work together and have peer support, which is always great, because it's better to work with someone sometimes your age than go into us adults. And then you've got CAMS, who are more of a medical service, and primary care mental health. And these services all link together on a thing called the Early Help Panel. So this panel runs weekly, and you can be referred from like self-referral. You can go to a youth centre and ask any of your youth workers. You can go to your doctor. You can speak to your teachers. There's so many different ways. If you just reach out to any of these people, or someone that you trust that can access to this panel, then what happens is your referral form then will come to the panel, and it'll be discussed amongst all of us professionals who have got your best interests at heart. So we all discuss this and see who's the best person we think to work with you and to provide the correct support. Now this can differ, so you could start with someone like us from the shift team, we can start providing support, and then if anything else comes out of it, so there could be like LGBT issues, gender identity issues, or anything like that, we can then pass that information on to other services to provide extra support, so we can form like a bubble around you and make sure you're completely supported, and you can dip in and out of these services, I suppose, as much as little as you want. So yeah, that's kind of how you get it if you're under 18. So for plus 18, it's kind of like a different service, because then you fit into adult services. So what you would need to do then is go to your GP and ask them to put a referral through. So yeah, go to the GP that you trust, so your regular GP, and they'll be able to put a referral through to similarly like what we do, but to adult services instead.
Spot on, Cal. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take this moment again. Oh, we've got a question in the chat box. Okay, so what is the best way to deal with the lack of motivation? Well, that is something that we all experience from time to time. Is there anybody on here that would like to take and answer this one?
Yeah, I've got a few little tips, maybe, hopefully. So first, like, I fully get the motivation or lack thereof. a lot of stuff at the moment feels like really big and unattainable, or it does for me anyway. So the one thing I really like to do is break it down into like really small manageable tasks. I'm really guilty of trying to get everything done in one go, so I've got like 10 things open at once. Do one thing at a time and finish that thing. Procrastination is particularly easy at a time like this. So yeah, getting a small chunk of it done and then making sure you finish it. I think as well, giving yourself a bit of credit. We're all very quick to you know, give everyone else a pat on the back and say how great they've done and great everything is, but we very seldom do that for ourselves. So I think that's a really, really important part, important thing to do. And then taking a bit of time for yourself, like certain things can wait. It's not always go, 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 go. You know, we're all trying our best and it's new for all of us. So just take it easy on yourself is sort of my biggest tip.
One thing that got me out of bed this morning was I watched a TikTok on a girl talking about wholesomeness, and she was enjoying her porridge and really making the most of it. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make some breakfast and enjoy it and sit with it. So sometimes it's just about doing one thing, like you said, single tasking, very small, and yeah, really enjoying and feeling that moment. We have another question. So if anybody wants to add to the last one, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move swiftly onwards.
I don't mind saying a bit.
Oh, welcome, Abby.
Yeah, so there's sort of like two things. And I understand that, like Gav said, it's so much easier said than done. And I think we all understand that, like to sit here and be like, yeah, do this. This feels like it's very easy for us to say. But I read this quote that sounds ridiculous, but it's something like, if your task for the day is to eat a frog, then eat the frog first. So basically whatever you want to do that you don't want to do, get it out the way first thing, it's done, you haven't got to worry about it. And there's another thing called Parkinson's law, which sort of states however long you assign to a task is how long it'll take you to do it. So if I need to clean my house, I've got to keep cleaning my house, I'll do that later. I will not clean my house. If I say I need to clean my house in half an hour, I'll probably get it done in half an hour. It comes back to like essays in school and homework, like you have whole half term off and you cram it into Sunday the night before because you've given yourself that week to do it. Whereas in that half hour, you've worked better than you've ever worked before because you've got half hour left to do it. So it's sort of however long you assign to a task, that's how long you'll do it. So even give yourself small tasks, like Gav said, the sort of chunk thing, like, right, I'm going to get this done by 11 and it has to be done by 11. And then you'll probably fit it into that hour rather than I'll do it later.
You ever have, like, when your bedroom's a mess, you've got clothes everywhere and you just don't even know where to start with the situation because it's just chaos? I find the best thing to do is say to myself, right, put away 10 items and then leave. If you've done 10 items, I'm happy with you. And usually by that point, once I've done 10, I'll do more because I get all excited. Anyway, next up then we've got, so with the shift project, who must be notified if I were to reach out? So I'm going to make a guess that this young person is interested in knowing who will know about their referral. Kelly?
Over to me, yeah. So I suppose it all depends really. Like, as panel kind of works, they like parents to be aware of the referral. I think that's down to consent. Being under the age of 18, they like parental consent for the young person, so you guys to be discussed at panel. But, you know, as youth workers, we totally understand that a lot of these issues can be really sensitive. So, for example, if there's an LGBT referral, you know, none of us within our right would like to out you to your parents if that's something that you haven't done, and we would never put you in that situation. So some referrals can be anonymous if you ask for it, you know, down to the sensitivity of what's going on. And for the shift project, we can take referrals direct. We don't generally do that. We generally go through panel because it's an easier way of tracking. But if you were to come into one of our youth centres and ask for that support, or ask someone for that support, but your parents weren't aware of the situation. And I use LGBT mostly because that is a real sensitive topic, and you know, it can cause massive problems if we were to put you in a position where, you know, we've outed you and, you know, that's your story to tell and that's not ours to take from you. So there are ways around it. Obviously we need to be sure that we're safeguarding you at all times as well. So we would discuss that with you, and we wouldn't go ahead and make that decision without informing you. We wouldn't let you know if we had to make your parents aware, or if it was a safeguarding issue and we had to raise that. But yeah, so there's two ways around it, and I hope that answers your question. That generally we do like to inform parents, but yeah, there are ways around that.
Cool. I've got another question. It's come up in a different way. It's come up on a group chat from a young person, which was around combating stigma of mental health. So it's something that we're hearing a lot more about lately. Definitely, it's in the news. It's all over our social media streams. But how do you think we could help combat the stigma of mental health, and maybe, you know, talking to your friends and saying that there's a problem? Does anybody want to take that question? Leanne, do you want to go up?
Sorry, Ab. The stigma around mental health, you are right. There has been historically a stigma around mental health, or a stigma around mental health. The first thing is to say that there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Like, there is no difference. And I think you'll be surprised, the more you talk to people about how you feel, the amount of people that can relate to you is unreal. Like, there's 4 of us here now, and we were just sharing some examples of how we knew that maybe we were reaching a point where we needed to look after our mental health a little bit more, and all 4 of us, you know, nod at the same time, and we've not had that conversation before. So it's just a part of us that we didn't realize that we could relate to in other people. I think maybe to tackle this, what was the question? How do you tackle this?
Combating stigma.
Combat the stigma. I think maybe that could start with yourself. Like, if you accept that this is a part of you, it doesn't define you. You are not anxiety on legs. You know, you are a person who is maybe working on their anxiety, for example. Like, it's a part of you, and it's absolutely nothing to be in any way, shape or form ashamed about. And maybe if you're struggling to start the conversation with your friends of, like, I don't know how to bring it up, something that I just personally find useful is to say, you know, I just don't really feel like myself. I don't feel like myself, and then, oh, I feel like this, I feel like, and you know, gradually go into that. And I think you'll be really surprised the response you get from your peers, because at the end of the day, the people who you surround yourself with, they've got your best interests at heart.
Abby, do you want to come in second?
Yeah, I don't have much to add, to be honestly, but I was just going to say there's this, it pretty much follows on from what Leanne said in terms of it starting with yourself. And there's this thing called, like, ACT, which is acceptance commitment therapy, and it sort of based itself on the idea that obviously none of us want to feel anxious, and it, again, like within yourself, feels like something to be ashamed of. So we try and ignore it, and we try that hard on ignoring it and pushing it away and refusing to feel it. It's going to get bigger and bigger and come into our real life because we're ignoring our friends because we're trying to hide this anxiety or depression. Whereas if you sort of just let it in and be like, do you know what, I actually feel this. No, it's not great. No, I don't want to feel this, but this is something I'm currently feeling, and talk to your friends about it and shed light on it, their reaction to it and their support in you is probably going to be entirely different from what you imagined it to be, because as Leanne said, we've all been nodding our heads the whole way through it, and you feel like you're alone in it and no one else feels it, and this is a crazy thing that you're feeling. But when you break it down and voice it, you're probably not that different to everyone else in terms of everyone has bits of it.
Fab. At this point, I want to encourage people to put in the chat bar then different types of ways that they look after their mental health, and the kind of advice that they give their friends to look after their mental health. Maybe we could talk about some of that. So if you've got any examples, feel free to check that in the chat while we're talking about the next points. I know that one of the key things that's come up with the Make Your Mark and Wellbeing was around language. So you have the types of language that's being used for mental health sometimes like takes away from those who have got a diagnosed illness and those who are using the words to describe something. I suppose, like when you say, oh, I've been triggered or I feel triggered, like I remember seeing somebody say that, you know, they don't know what word to use now, when they are actually physically triggered for their mental health, when that kind of word makes it feel like a light-hearted, oh, I'm just feeling a bit annoyed about that, you know. The other one was gone blank, never mind. So yeah, language, just let's have a bit of a chat about language and what we use. Any thoughts? Abby?
Sorry, I just stole Gav's line right then. I think it's a lot of, it's that thing, isn't it, where you say like, oh God, I'm so anxious. I've got anxiety because I'm worried about a thing, where you sort of, the way I would describe it is when you go into exams or you're trying to look for your name in exam hall or your number and things like that, because everyone always says they've got anxiety about that, and you don't, because anxiety, the definition of anxiety is, and it doesn't fit in with what's going on in normal life. So if a situation is happening that causes anxious feelings, that's realistic, that makes sense, and we need anxiety, otherwise we'd all be walking in front of cars and we'd not be worried about anything. Like, you need that to a certain level. But I think the saying you're anxious, you suffer with anxiety, comes from there being no real trigger. You're just constantly ready for every potential situation that's not that realistic, and it's that balance that makes it anxiety rather than just feeling a little bit anxious.
Yeah. I wonder, I know a lot of us on the chat know about fight, flight and freeze. Does anybody want to tell us about that? Anyone? Or I'll give you time to think about it and I'll ask. I don't mean to put you on the spot now, but I've heard a story about bear hunting, and I don't know if you want to tell me about bear hunting. That'd be great if you could, Leanne. We had a discussion, didn't we, about this once upon a time?
I was waiting. I was literally waiting.
Just popped up.
Oh,
it's so good.
The way that I had anxiety explained to me before, and it was one of those things that just made sense. As soon as the man said it, I thought, oh God, yeah, you're so right. And he said, I'll see if I can remember, get it right. He said, so picture yourself back. He was like, you're a cave person, you're living in your cave, you know, you're loving life, you're in your cave, and then all of a sudden this bear walks in. So you're like, oh my God, alas, a bear. So you fight or flight. So you decide to run. So you run out of your cave and up you go into your tree. So your mind has seen that there's a threat. So your brain's told you that there's a threat. So your body starts acting accordingly. So your brain tells the rest of your body, right, we're going to need to run. So you need some adrenaline to get out of there. Your heart starts bumping really fast because you know that you're going to be on the move. You get your itchy legs. Your body doesn't sort of fuel the things that you don't need. So you know, that's why you get that pit feeling in your stomach, the dry mouth, the tense. You know, I always find that like I tense my jaw quite a lot because your brain is telling your body you're in danger, there's a threat, so you know, get moving. So you climb up into your tree, you see the bear walk away, your brain then tells your body, right, the threat has gone, it's time to chill. So that's when you start to calm down. He said with anxiety, and it leads on from what you said, Ab, like anxiety it's not a realistic, it's not a response to something that's realistically happening necessarily. He said you wake up and your brain senses that there's a threat. So your brain tells you the rest of your body, right, there's a threat here. So let's get the anxiety going. We don't know when we're going to need it, but you need to be prepared to keep it going. Don't stop, because you're going to need it at some point. So just keep the anxiety going, keep you on level alert. And then because your brain hasn't seen the threat and doesn't know what the threat is, hasn't seen the bear, you start bear hunting. So you start thinking to yourself, oh, well, I haven't spoke to so-and-so for a couple of weeks. So are they annoyed with me because I haven't texted her back? Or, oh God, I said I'd go and see my nan, but I haven't had time to go down there. She's going to be so annoyed with me. So you start bear hunting. You start looking for the reason as to why you feel like you do. And then because the threat doesn't leave, because there is no thing, then, so we said the next time you feel yourself like that, ask yourself, is this a reaction to something, or am I bear hunting?
I think I used I think I've used that one a few times. Am I bear hunting, or is this a real threat? And realised no, there isn't actually any threat. One of my favourite ones to do as well is I feel like a lot of our worry and anxiety can be in the past or the future. So it's either something that's happened or something that's in the future. And actually, most of the time, in the right here, right now, if you really think about it, there's not always that much going on. It can be, I'm not saying there isn't, but in the right now is usually where we spend our time worrying about other things. So sometimes we need to look into the right now and appreciate it if it's going okay. Because how many times do we sit back and actually appreciate if it's going okay or not? Anyway, I've kind of deviated us from languages. So we were talking about using different languages. I know that, yeah, triggered was definitely one of them, saying that you got anxiety when it might be stress. From a chat with a clinical psychologist, she was telling us about actually using like the correct feelings for words for feelings. So you have like anger is like a response to injustice. You have sadness, shows you that you're not happy with something. You know, happy shows that you're happy with the situation, and sometimes it's okay to use those words to just understand your feelings. I've heard other misuses of languages has been like OCD, when somebody who is like, I don't know, being super efficient about something in that moment, or, you know, they're washing their hands a little bit more than normal. Like sometimes people can go, oh, I'm really OCD, when actually like they're not clinically diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, which affects their everyday life. So I think the point on this is about being mindful of what we say and who that might affect, even if it's like, you might be like, oh, I'm amongst my friends right now, but you never know what they might go through in later life. So just being aware. Does anybody have anything they want to cut in and say? I'm going to check the chat bar now. We haven't got anything at the moment, but we have got a few attendees online. So if you are watching online, please feel free to put in some questions for us. Anything that you want us to bring up.
Jade, we do have one question that's come up.
Oh, go on.
I'm feeling anxious about coming out of lockdown and going back to school. How can I manage this?
That is a common one I'm finding at the moment, definitely. A lot of young people are mixed emotions about it. You're not on your own first and foremost. I would suggest that you speak to some people around you and tell them, so whether that's a parent or a teacher, they can be really supportive in trying to help you understand like how you are going to be kept safe. I know that with a lot of what we've seen on the media and a lot of what we're told in school can be quite overwhelming at times, but actually sometimes I have to tell myself that, you know, when we come out of lockdown, there are measures that are put in place for our safety. So that could mean washing your hands and wearing your mask, like that will keep you safe, and keeping the distance and playing by the rules. You know, it's all thought through by professionals, and nobody would make you come back and put you in an unsafe situation. Does anybody want to follow me on that one? I hope that answers your question. Oh, go on, Gav.
Yeah, sorry, I was just struggling to unmute my mic then. So yeah, like anxiety is a really, really, really big like deal, isn't it? It covers so much. It's not just a really simple thing. So it's like taking things slowly, taking like one step at a time. So maybe once things do go back to normal, maybe you don't just jump back into like what would have been considered normal before, because it's going to be a lot just to jump back in, like going over a mate's house, hanging out with huge groups of people again. Like it's going to be really overstimulating. So in terms of like anxiety and that, I tend to recommend a few different apps. So of the ones I recommend, there's a couple of mindfulness ones. There's DigiPill, that's like a mindfulness meditation app. There's Headspace, which is another meditation app. And there's this other one, it's a little bit childish actually, but the content on there is amazing. It's called Booster Buddy. I'll post it in the chat section in a sec, but this Booster Buddy app is really good for, it's like, it reminds you every day to check in with it, and it's got a list of different things that it covers, from anxiety to sleep disorders, eating, self-harm, you name it, it's got it. So yeah, I check out some of these apps as well if you are feeling a bit anxious and you're not really sure what to do with it, but obviously the first protocol is to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. I think we definitely put those in our, we'll share those across our social media list of apps and the support that's available. That'd be good. Thanks for that, Gav. Does anybody else have any points that they want to bring up at the moment? Is there any other questions? I'm aware that we've got 15 minutes just to let you know. So I would really urge you, if you do have any questions, to put them forward. I think we've got, and here we go. We have another question. Yeah, I'd urge you to put your questions forward. And if you don't feel comfortable in asking them in the chat today, then we can be contacted outside of the chat as youth workers. Okay, next question then. Are LGBT plus children more prone to more fluctuating mental health? Why is that, in your opinion? Does anybody want to take that on? I'm going to say that we are not experts in mental health and LGBT. We don't know that as a statistic. And I would say that in my personal experience, I've noticed that, yeah, some young people do struggle with mental health and LGBT. And I think that could potentially be from not being able to be their authentic self. You know, if they feel that they have trouble coming out, or they feel like they have difficulty being accepted by their peers or their family, it can be quite difficult, a thing to go through. And I'm not sure, like I am speculating. I know that it does help our young people if they are in a nurture environment where their friends are supportive and their family are supportive, or they have somebody who can hear them out. Anybody else?
Jump in a little bit on that one. Again, it's speculative. I don't have any stats in front of me, but over the last couple of years, I've ran a few LGBT groups, whether it's in school and outside in the community. So yeah, I mean, to a degree, I could say there probably is a higher percentage from my personal experience of working with LGBT young people, but that's not to say that's the case across the board. As Jade said, maybe struggling with things that other young people aren't. But I think to a degree, like, it affects everyone. So it's a difficult one to say, like, for sure. But of the ones I've experienced, I would say, yeah, I guess. And why that is, I think it's just down to, I mean, it's gotten a lot better, I would say, but it goes down to stigma, people just, you know, not treating other people with respect, and that's a huge thing. So yeah, sorry, I mean, we can look into it. I can post some stats, because it's things like, I know like men are more likely to commit suicide, for instance, and that's a statistic I know off the top of my head. So there probably is a stat out there. We'll find out actually, and we'll post it on our social media later. So sorry, we can't answer that at the moment.
Absolutely. And if anybody is struggling, like, there are many ways in which we can help. It isn't just full blown, you know, referrals to CAMHS or, like, I don't know, the doctors and stuff. It could be as simple just reaching out to our youth work site. So we've got this website called Monlife Connect, and on there is a self-referral digital support form, and that will actually come through to me as a youth worker, and then I can allocate you somebody who is in our team that's local to you. So it could be your local youth worker at the local centre, or if you specify something that you need help with, or specifically, we can help like that, you know. And it could be short term or long term. Okay. Have we got any more questions? Yes. Okay, next one. How can I support my friend who suffers with her mental health? It's hard to know what to say or if I am saying the right thing. Does anybody want to take that? If not, I will.
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit, I guess. I'll say again what we said earlier. It's listening. Listening is 99% of like our jobs. It's not our jobs to fix anyone. We're not the people for that. We're not going to medicate you. We're not going to diagnose you with anything. We're there to listen. And when it comes to talking to other people about their struggles, try not to make it about yourself. All too often people say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. I had a really terrible time with this, and it's just like, I'm not talking to you because I want to know about what, you know what I mean. So just try to listen as best you can, really, and talk to them and ask them what they want as well. That's always really helpful. A lot of people don't do that. They just sort of jump in and think they can fix the issue. So that's my 2 pence.
Yeah, I think you're kind of with them, aren't you, Gav, as a support to walk with them on that path, not necessarily, you're not there to fix them. We don't expect to be fixed by our friends sometimes. We just want them to hear us out. And actually, when somebody listens to you and hears you out, you usually end up coming up with your own answers anyway. So sometimes it's just asking questions back, like, well, what do you think would help you, you know? I hope that answers your question. So yeah, feel free to keep posting in the chat if that didn't. So yeah, it's not long now before we are going to be closing. So any last questions would be welcome. Does any of the staff online have anything that they want to add to today? If not, that's fine too.
I would just say about the last question as well, I think it's really important, because I know as like caring friends, like what you do worry about your friend and you worry if they're okay and things like that. But I think it's also important to not take it personally if they don't answer your text, or if you message them and they a little bit snappy back with you. Like, it's not a reflection on you. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, they're going through their own thing. So don't sort of worry about it, and don't let that make you feel like you're doing the wrong thing, because I guarantee at the end of the day they'll still appreciate that you were there and you did the best you can. So I think it's important to not take anything they're saying personally.
Brilliant. Thanks, Abby. I totally agree. We are going to fill our Instagram with links and stuff. We are going to be available and contactable online. We do appreciate everyone that comes on. I do want to plug actually the next Friday Friendlies as well. So we are very fortunate that we've started this now. This is the second one in the series. Like I said, we started with a budget engagement last week, and I know that we've got bullying next week. So online next week, we're going to be looking at bullying, online bullying, staying safe online, because it's Safer Internet Week. So we will be interested in finding more out about that. So we'll spend our time next week looking to resources and speaking to people about their experiences, and then we hope that you can join us next Friday, same time, same place, to discuss bullying with us. We have a 14-week plan then following from that, with lots of different topics. We have votes at 16, we have LGBT, we have gender identity, transport. There's lots of them, so you'll have to have a little look out on our social media, and we will be sending out a timetable of events going on then to the schools and everywhere that we can think of. So you might want to just have a little look and see which ones you'd be good for, and join us on the chat, really. We will be getting in experts, and some of them might be workshops. I know that we've got one on eating disorders, autism awareness. So there's lots and lots and lots available. So we will be plugging that each week. We have 5 minutes left, so I would urge anybody else who's got any more questions to chuck them in. And if not, do we have any other pointers that we want to bring up today?
Okay.
It has.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Go on, it's fine. I don't know. It was just, I guess, keep an eye out for your mates, your family, and most important, look after yourself. You're not going to be any good to anyone if you're not looking after yourself first and foremost. So just a few little things to look out for with other people, like withdrawing a bit more, whether you notice them eating more than usual, less than usual, sleeping more than usual, sleeping less than usual. all those types of things. Just keep an eye out, check in with people, and then just make sure that you're looking after yourself. That's the main thing, really.
One of the pointers you made at the start, Gav, was about isolation, and I think it is so easy at the moment to, get stuck in a little routine in your house, to stay in the same places locally, but then we kind of do withdraw from online and talking to our friends, and yeah, I think maybe if you have it in you to like speak to your friends, I think that's like maybe one a week would be a nice little challenge for some people looking after themselves. I find your mood really elevates when you start talking to people that you haven't spoken to in a while, and I change it up, I do as well, and call random people and they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't spoken to you in like a year. That's quite fun. Gav, did you want to say something then? You're just laughing at me. Okay, that's fine. I can take it. Okay, I'm just going to have a little look on this list now. I'm going to tell you a bit about what we've done like in times gone by. So I work with the Youth Council, and the Youth Council have worked with on the mental health strategy for Wales. So we did some workshops about 2 years ago on that. That was good. We've made a booklet about looking after yourself. And then obviously the Shift project's a relatively new project, which is working for Monmouthshire. So there is quite a lot happening since young people have been saying that mental health is an issue. And I wish that this can reach out to a lot of young people and help in some way. I suppose we will take any questions, and we can be publishing answers if you want. I'm stuck. I think we should round it off here. We've managed to get through all of our topic points, and I don't think we've got any more questions in the question box at the moment, just reading. So I'd like to say thank you very much for attending today and joining us on the live. It's been really helpful to see that people are here. If you do think of anything afterwards, please drop us a message. I know that we'll be having a little look to see if anybody's watched the recordings back, and we can answer any questions that come up after that. We are all here for you, online, on the phone, over text, over FaceTime. We do lots of different ways of contacting, and it'll be soon one-to-one support. Won't be long now. We will post the links for the apps so that you can have a little look at that. And yeah, thanks pretty much for joining. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I'll see you. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.